Hi kids! Today we are going to be talking about tides and how they are affected by the moon.
Nicole the science girl. Nick, Nicole the science girl.
The first thing that we will be discussing is...
Nicole, what are tides?
Hello there, what's your name?
My name is Eliana, but my friends call me Ellie.
Hi Ellie. You said you wanted to learn more about tides and what they affect, didn't you?
I sure did.
Well, let's start with the basics. The tide, first of all, is created by the attraction of the moon and the earth to each other.
Oh, wow.
Luckily, the earth is able to hold everything in but the water. Each day, there are 2 high tides and 2 low tides. The tides periodically rise and fall, with the ocean constantly changing from high tide to low tide and back to high tide. Another interesting...
Wait. This is boring. Is that all there is to tides?
No, there are a lot of other factors that have to do with tides.
Really?
Yeah! For one thing, the moon's rotation and revolution affects the tides. As the moon travels around the earth, and as they, together, travel around the sun, the combined gravitational forces cause the world's oceans to rise and fall. The moon also affects the tides in other ways, like with...
Newport spring tides.
Very good! That is exactly what I was going to say. Do you know what those tides are?
Well,
the spring tide is obviously in the spring.
That is completely wrong. Spring tides have nothing to do with the spring.
Oh!
what I was going to say was spring tides occur during the full moon or during the new moon. And really low tides occur during the quarter moon.
Very good. I never did get your name.
It's the.
Well, excellent, Thee. That is exactly what spring and neap tides
You
are.
mean that's all they are?
No, there's more to them. So let me elaborate. The spring tides cause very high and very low tides. Spring tides are especially strong tides, and they occur when the sun, earth, and moon are in a line.
But what about leap tides?
I'm getting there!
What? Don't need to shout!
Okay, well, if you were being patient, you would know that when the sun and the moon are not aligned, the gravitational forces cancel each other out, causing tides that are not dramatically high or low. These are called neap tides. They are especially weak tides. Well, I think it is time for a field trip.
A field trip?
Yes, to the Georgia salt marshes.
Wow.
Why?
Because now we are going to learn about the effects of tidal marshes on tidal organisms.
Cool, let's go.
some basic information. The higher the tidal range, the greater the production potential of the marsh.
But what is so special about these marshes?
Well, these are the Georgia salt marshes, and the Georgia salt marshes are some of the most biologically productive natural systems on Earth. A major reason for Georgia's extensive expanses of salt marshes is that its coast experiences the highest tides along the southeastern shoreline. Many organisms in salt marshes only spend part of their lives there.
But what about the animals?
What about them?
What kind of animals live there?
Oh, well, there are many different species of crabs. Snails, insects, raccoons, rabbits, mink, rats, and there's also things like the diamondback terrapin.
Wow. And how do they live there?
Well, when they first started in the marsh, they had to adapt.
Cool. Can you tell us more about it?
Duh! Some features of the tidal pool ecosystem are 1. Algae grows and supports the food chain. 2. Constant wave action supplies the tidal pool with nutrients and oxygen. And 3. There are hiding places and little surfaces for organisms to cling to because the tides are constantly rising and falling.
But what about the dangers?
Oh, right! Well, there are 3 important dangers to the animals and plants. 1, the salinity, which is the salt concentration, is constantly changing, and the animals need to be able to live with this. 2, when the tide is out and the animals are exposed, waves can carry out unprotected animals. And 3, the sun can dry up moisture and water.
But how do they avoid these dangers?
Well, small animals that live in the splash zone can close their shells tightly to seal moisture and avoid drying up. And animals such as crabs have thick, tough shells to slow down evaporation in order to maintain more moisture. Some animals, such as mussels, can even group together so as not to be individually exposed.
I know that some animals, such as sea stars, have adapted to clinging to a wall to avoid being washed away.
Yes! And animals in subtidal zones are protected by plants. Orchid stars can tolerate long periods of time exposed to the sun. Abalones, limpets, and turpin snails can smell orchid stars and can leave to avoid getting eaten by them. Lastly, sea cucumbers will expel their entrails when they need to escape.
Oh! You mean they spew their guts?
Don't worry about it, they grow back in a couple days.
I feel like my brain is gonna explode with all this information.
It's okay, we only have 1 more section to go.
Is it about tides?
No, it's about tidal energy, you Dumbo.
It's like you read my mind. Tidal energy is produced through the use of tidal energy generators. Large underwater turbines are placed in areas with high tidal movement and are designed to capture kinetic motion of the ebbing and surging of tides in order to produce energy. Tidal electricity generation works as the tide comes in and again when it goes out. The turbines are driven by the power of the sea in both directions.
Cool, but do people actually use it?
Of course. France is the biggest user of tidal energy and provides 20% of Britain's electricity needs.
France.
There are 8 main sites about Britain where tidal energy could even be built today. But there are drawbacks of tidal energy too. Are you guys listening to me?
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'd appreciate it if you paid attention.
Sorry, baby.
One drawback is that they can only generate when the tide is flowing in or out, and they can only generate for 10 hours a day. Another drawback is that huge number of birds that feed on the mudflats in the estuary would die when the tides go out, and they would have nowhere to feed.
Dang, I learned so much today.
I guess I learned a little.
Thanks, it was really fun teaching you guys. Well, this is me signing out, Nicole the Science Girl.
Bah!